I shall design this computer for you, and I shall name it also unto you, and it shall be called
Guggeth's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, what a dull name.
Hello everyone, welcome back. I know it's been a while since we've talked like this. I've missed our chats. What drags me out of the pit of college despair is Marvel's inevitable ending to one of their phases, marking a whole new list of movies, shows, and even shorts for us all to rank and review to our heart's content. This time around, we have 17 new projects to fully enjoy, although you'll notice that this list has only 16 slots. All will be explained eventually. But today, I'll be taking a look back at everything Marvel has provided us in Phase 5 since the beginning of 2023 to now. From the highs, to the lows, to the very far lows of Phase 5, there is something for everybody to enjoy or talk about this time around. Since this list covers things going as far back as 2023, a lot of these projects I have talked about previously, but like many things, a lot of my opinions have changed with time. Before we continue any further, there will be spoilers for every single project on this list, so big emphasis on spoilers for Thunderbolts and Ironheart, as they are the newest projects on this list that will be talked about. Today, I'll be ranking based on the following criteria. Number 1. Writing. Is the story the writers told easily able to be built upon by other directors and writers in this connected cinematic universe, or did Marvel take a big swing and strike out completely? Number 2. Connectivity. Similar to the previous point, is it obvious where these characters will show up again as we march closer towards Doomsday and Secret Wars, or is their time in the MCU wrapped up? Number 3. Test of time. Did these projects leave a lasting impact on the audience, or did they forget about it the second the ads for it stopped airing? And finally, number 4, enjoyability. If I didn't enjoy my time watching these projects and it just felt like homework, it's not going to be too high on the list. With all that being said, come with me as we take a look back on Phase 5 of the MCU and rank all of its projects from worst to best.
Choose your fighter!
Jesus Christ, what to say about Secret Invasion that hasn't been said before? This was one of the main reasons that I felt like I needed to make this video, because in my previous video where I mentioned this show, I put it above projects like She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, and WandaVision. While those other shows are 5 to 6 out of 10 projects, Secret Invasion is genuinely just miserable to think about now that it's been out for 2 years. Not a single piece of this show has ever been mentioned outside a funny joke in Daredevil.
Could it have been a scroll? Nope.
Because that's all the show is, a joke. Even its direct follow-up, where the Skrulls and Nick Fury both appear next, barely acknowledges that this show exists. With little doubt in my mind, Secret Invasion is one of the worst projects the MCU has ever produced. Every out-of-pocket thing that an annoying film bro who doesn't like the MCU could say about it is true and present inside Secret Invasion. It has miserable writing, badly executed fanservice moments, a villain that makes no sense, and so many terrible implications for the further MCU that wouldn't even be fun to talk about. They even managed to waste Emilia Clarke inside the goddamn MCU, playing Gaia, easily the most powerful character in the entire MCU now. They can't even do anything with her anymore because she's just too powerful and cannot be scaled in any way. And I'm sure most people will agree, if you have a character that is too powerful, that doesn't have any stakes, and there's not any danger, they're just boring to watch. And I didn't even want to talk about it because it kind of just pains me to say, but Samuel L. Jackson is also boring to watch throughout this TV show. Yeah, you heard me, Nick Fury, one of the coolest and most badass characters ever introduced to this universe, and they wasted him and made him boring to watch. You know how difficult it is to make Samuel L. Jackson boring? The entire plot of the show is just so awful that they needed to kill Maria Hill in the first episode as bait just to get people to come back for episode 2. At least when another show on this list made a similar decision of killing a cool character off rip for bait, it had some cool moments after that terrible decision. I just hope to God that the next time Nick Fury shows up, he just has amnesia and forgets anything that he was supposed to learn from this terrible and awful excuse for a TV show. Secret Invasion starts off our list perfectly with a 1 out of 10 ranking. Onto another project that could be the exact movie that every annoying film bro uses to bash the entire MCU. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is very bad. It is a bland and boring movie and just wastes such great talent from a lot of good people involved. Quantumania's failure and Jonathan Majors' childish inability to keep his hands to himself is the main reason that Marvel feels so disconnected right now, because they're scrambling for a new and fast way to close out the Multiverse saga. There's just not much to say about this movie that hasn't been said before. It's an absolute mess of a movie that results in the big bad villain of the saga being thrown aside because Marvel thought it was a smart idea to introduce him in an Ant-Man movie. Quantumania kind of just continued the streak of throwing random content out in order to fit a deadline. Not truly caring about the end product, just hitting a release date to check off a box for something being set up for the next Avengers movie. Quantumania was yet another way to just overwork VFX artists and bore the audience into losing faith in the MCU. Truly one of the worst films the MCU has ever produced, and without a doubt, one of the easiest 2 out of 10s I will ever give out. Echo was produced in the phase of Marvel where everyone and everything got a spin-off. But unlike other projects that were filled with the spite of who wanted this and actually had something to prove, Echo was just dropped onto Disney Plus all in one day and forgotten about immediately. Was I bored watching it? Yes. But was it better than Quantumania and Secret Invasion? Absolutely yes. While a little forgettable in my eyes, telling a story about Maya Lopez and her culture was a beautiful thing that the MCU doesn't typically do. Representation is extremely important, and I bet anybody who feels connected to the culture that is shown in Echo absolutely adored this story and what it had to say. But for me, a person who's not on the inside of that target audience, I just felt lost in trying to understand why she had to do what she had to do. And part of me thinks that Marvel knew that, fully explained through its marketing. Remember when the trailer came out for this show and it fully highlighted Kingpin and Maya and their relationship, and then just chuck Daredevil in there too for funsies? Notice a pattern? I would hope so, because it's the exact same marketing scheme they used for She-Hulk, and it worked. But after putting him in every single bit of marketing, only for him to show up for 3 minutes in the literal first episode, and immediately giving a certain crowd of people what they were waiting for, they're just gonna stop watching naturally. And sometimes I wish I did stop watching after Daredevil showed up, because the show was not entirely what they marketed it to be. Similar to Quantumania and unfortunately the Sony Spider-Man movies, the marketing will trick you into thinking you'll enjoy the whole thing because of 2 or 3 cool parts that they populate the marketing with. Maybe Marvel knew that their main target demographic wouldn't enjoy this show, but shame on them for handling it the way that they did. Unfortunately for Maya Lopez, Echo gets a 3 out of 10 in our big ranking.
You think the wind is ever trying to tell us something and we don't know how to hear it anymore?
Just want you to stop saying odd shit.
This is why the list has 17 entries but only 16 slots. What if Season 2 and Season 3 for me are the exact same level of quality, and as such, I'm counting them in 1 slot and doing 1 review for the 2 seasons. Because what the actual f*** happened between Season 1 and Season 2 and 3? Let me read you some of the comic what-if stories they could have drawn from versus the story the show chose to tell. What if Mjolnir had found Loki instead of Thor? Or what if Happy Hogan saved Christmas? Aww. What if Spider-Man's clone lived? Or what if Howard the Duck got somebody pregnant? Aww. I think I made my point very clear right there by saying this entire show was wasted potential one after another. But the reason it's higher than some other attempts from Marvel is sometimes the ridiculous sounding episodes do actually have some fun elements to them. Stories like what if the Emergence destroyed Earth? We actually got some mention of the Eternals in Phase 5 and it was fun. Fun for all of a couple minutes until we managed to find a way back to another story about Captain Carter and her boring ass plot. She was the focal point of one really good What If episode to kick us off, but after that, every single appearance felt forced. And because of all the Captain Carter episodes we got, we didn't even get the easiest What If story for them to do, one that a lot of people were asking for anyway, being what if the other half got snapped. Something bare minimum like that would have been amazing to see that Marvel actually cared about the stories they were telling here, but no, they don't. Season 1 of What If was a fun time with some wackiness that came naturally, but Season 2 and Season 3 try to force that wackiness, and it was just not a fun time. I did not really enjoy myself watching either of these seasons, and because of that, both receive a 3 out of 10 ranking. Some credit for some really good episodes that get overshadowed by the plethora of bad. Dude, how the hell do we live in a world where I Am Groot Season 2, a tiny combination of cute shorts starring Baby Groot, is better produced and written than a full-on studio production that had a budget of hundreds of millions of dollars? There's truly not that much to talk about here. I Am Groot Season 2 took a fun little idea from the first season and quite literally just gave us more of it. It's just tiny little adventure starring everyone's favorite baby tree getting into some wacky hijinks. And it's exactly what it intended to be, a fun, good time. But yet again, this is 5 entries into our list. So yes, I am telling you that in my opinion, a series of silly shorts starring Baby Groot is better than full seasons and even full movies that were supposed to be important for Marvel's big overall plan going into the Kang Dynasty. I Am Groot Season 2 is just a fun, silly little project that gets a 4 out of 10 ranking.
Cinderella, cause she broke, homie. She represent me, yo. Let me borrow $20.
We are officially entering our part of the ranking where everything from here on out is a solid good. And that's exactly what Captain America Brave New World is. It's good. It's nothing special, it's nothing flashy, it's just good. And I enjoyed myself watching it. Fully building off the events of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, Brave New World sees Sam fully stepping into the mantle of Captain America and the struggles that come with it. Showing Sam's struggles fully in the Falcon and Winter Soldier allowed this movie just fully show Sam being confident and ready to take on the mantle of Captain America, and I really enjoyed that. Anthony Mackie's acting and on-screen relationship with Harrison Ford was easily the highlight of this movie. It's what happens when you take 2 characters who feel like they are both in the right in everything they do, played by 2 amazing actors. You have the recipe for a good movie here. But unfortunately, that's not all this movie is. This movie also reintroduces the Leader, a villain from the Incredible Hulk movie from 17 years ago. And like I said in my most anticipated movies for 2025 video, I was so excited for his return. So I am sad to report, I was disappointed by how they managed to adapt this character. They basically just made him omnipotent so that he can spout random knowledge about the future at the MCU directly into the camera and try and make it sound like it makes sense. Another thing truly missing from this movie is characters like Bucky, John Walker, and Sharon Carter, other main players that made the Falcon and Winter Soldier such a nice TV show to enjoy. It's mainly the no Bucky part that annoys me, because in every single Captain America movie we've gotten so far, he's had a main role and has been a main player in it. And just because Steve Rogers is no longer Captain America, doesn't mean that Sam Wilson doesn't still need his best bud Bucky every once in a while to help out. It just feels a little off, and I feel like it has something to do with the fact that this movie had so many reshoots and so many rewrites in an attempt to make a passable product, once Marvel knew that many people weren't going to like this next adaptation. But in the end, Brave New World is just a passable product. The acting was good, the plot was good, the CGI was good, everything was just a solid level good. So, Captain America Brave New World gets a 6 out of 10 ranking. At the midway point of our list, we have The Marvels, the direct sequel to Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and WandaVision. I will always see people with this movie near the bottom of their Phase 5 or overall MCU lists, and I wonder if we watched the same movie. Sure, the villain of the movie is goofy and barely has passable writing, but that's not what this movie is about. This movie is about taking superstar Captain Marvel and giving her a new way to work as a team. It's some much needed development since the last time we saw her. Because the last time we saw her was in Endgame, when she quite literally wanted to work solo and knew she was the most powerful person in the room. She had very little depth for her character, which is what The Marvels gives her. Especially when you stick her with Kamala Khan, one of the best characters introduced post-Endgame, you have the formula for a fun and enjoyable movie. Which is exactly what The Marvels is. Because what other movie would you have a sequence of cats eating humans to safely transport them back to the Earth? It's a ridiculous concept that only this movie could have pulled off, and it does it in spectacular fashion. The effects are great, the chemistry is super fun, and the plot is messy. almost exactly what the first Captain Marvel was, but this time it gave us some proper development for Carol's character that makes me excited to see her come back. Plus, it fully ignores Secret Invasion with Nick Fury's character, woohoo! Bonus points and a pat on the back for also pretending that that show doesn't exist. Easily could have been a lot better, but is nowhere near as bad as people on the internet try to tell you it is. And because of its overall fun vibe, The Marvels receives a 7 out of 10 ranking. Daredevil Born Again was arguably the weirdest entry on this list, because at some points it felt like it should be super high, but other points it didn't deserve it. Going all the way back to the Secret Invasion ranking earlier in this video, I said, at least when another show on this list made a similar decision of killing a cool character off rip for bait, it had some cool moments after that terrible decision. I was referring to Daredevil Born Again and the awful decision to kill Foggy in the first 10 minutes and have Karen move to California. It felt like Born Again was just attempting to find a way to differentiate itself from the Netflix show, and the best way they could think about doing that was by introducing a whole new set of characters. A whole new set of characters, I'll be honest, I didn't really give a shit about outside of White Tiger. But truly, Born Again is best when it feels like a continuation of the Netflix show. The last 2 episodes just feel like we were dropped right back into this world and nothing changed. But in order to get to those moments, you need to deal with the bank episode, the butchering of Muse, the title character of Daredevil not showing up until episode 6, and plenty of other problems that this show just has leaking from it. Born Again was just odd decision after odd decision, but once they decided on what story they want to tell and locked in on it, they stayed locked in on it until the end of the show. Episode 7 and Episode 8 close out this very meh season with content that rivals some of the best Disney Plus shows. The fight scene with Daredevil and the Punisher against the anti-vigilante task force inside the apartment was arguably one of the best action set pieces inside the MCU because it stuck to its roots of what made Daredevil work. Because Daredevil is a show rooted in violence and the danger of having these abilities, and nowhere is it more apparent than when you're watching 2 of them absolutely annihilate this crowd of power-hungry cops. Born Again also gets heavy props for taking real-world events of dirty cops and bigots, using the Punisher logo in their hatred and turning it into a real plotline, with the Punisher calling anybody who uses his logo for hatred a moron. But with Season 2 fully being written and directed by the guys who made Episode 7 and Episode 8, gives me a little bit of hope for the future of this character. But for now, Daredevil Born Again gets a 7 out of 10 ranking.
Messing up everything. It's been Agatha all along.
Agatha All Along was one of the biggest surprises throughout the entirety of Phase 5. Because, I'll admit it, I was one of those people who said, who asked for this? Because let's all be honest, why did Agatha Harkness, arguably the worst part of WandaVision, earn her own show for a reason other than Marvel wanted more money and more things to put on Disney+? But Marvel proved me wrong, because once Kathryn Hahn steps out of the shadows of Elizabeth Olsen and the conflicting tones of WandaVision and into the spotlight of her own show where they can focus on one thing at a time, Agatha All Along genuinely had me hooked and excited from week to week about what character we are going to get development for next. While Kathryn Hahn is easily the highlight of the show, every single co-star she shares the screen with has a couple of moments where they are the best character. The writing is structured in a way that's easily plot twist reliant, that was unfortunately spoiled by Funko of all companies. But unlike other projects whose final twist gets revealed early and the whole thing is ruined, Agatha All Along manages to reveal its plot twist in such simple ways that you could have come to the conclusion that Rio was Death and Teen is Billy Kaplan, aka Billy Maximoff, before the reveal of the twist. So props to them for being able to bounce back from a Funko leak very easily. Even more props to them for the beautiful set design of every single location our crew visits. Every place feels different from the last in an easy and streamlined way to show how different our characters' pasts are from each other. Overall, it's just a great time. And apparently this is number 2 of the trilogy, with Vision Quest eventually being number 3 later in Phase 6. So hopefully we get to see Agatha and Billy continue their journey in that. Agatha All Along also gets a 7 out of 10 ranking. Marvel's newest attempt at the Spider-Man TV show definitely had some bumps, as most Spider-Man television typically does, but nevertheless, it was still a faithful and fun adaptation of the character that explored a new way to show the story of Peter Parker. To address the elephant in the room, I did actually enjoy the animation style of the show. I thought it fit very well with the story they were trying to tell and the characters they were adapting. Sure, it looks weird when the characters are just standing and talking, but when Peter is swinging through the city or fighting anyone, it feels fluid and smooth. And honestly, this show is what I wish What If was, changing one part of the story we already know and showing how it spirals out from there. And in this case, it's if Peter's mentor was Norman Osborn instead of Tony Stark. And honestly, I hope this is exactly how they introduce Norman and even Harry to Tom Holland's Peter Parker when they eventually do so, because they were some of my favorite characters between episodes of the show. The plot could definitely use a lot of tightening with its pacing for how quick some arcs go, but the show only has 30-minute episodes, so obviously you won't be able to fit an entire movie's worth of content into that time. All in all, this show is just fun. How could it not be when you're given Spider-Man just being Spider-Man time and time again with some really cool and really fresh looking modern animation? The animation is fun, characters all feel grounded and believable in their actions, and the plot is done just well enough that it was an enjoyable watch. Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man gets a solid score of 7 out of 10. On to the next. Dude, Ironheart actually slapped. I am beyond ecstatic that I'm able to say that. Because if you're able to take one step back from the losers online who have nothing better to do than spread hate right into your ear and watch a TV show where a brilliant young black woman creates a legacy for herself, you will most likely enjoy Ironheart. The story felt grounded and realistic, the characters were all fun and enjoyable, and the Hood with his deal with Mephisto was a great introduction to the devil of the MCU after all these years. I've seen people online ask why they chose to introduce Mephisto in Ironheart of all shows, but to me it makes sense, because Ironheart is truly about grief, a theme we saw a lot of in Phase 4, introduced very early on in the show, of the pain you feel when you lose somebody very close to you. So they introduced Mephisto, because when you're experiencing that pain, you can make some bad decisions to make it go away quicker. But similar to other projects on this list, Ironheart takes a character that we were introduced to earlier on in the MCU and fleshes them out into their own proper character. Riri Williams is such a cool character that we now have in this universe, because for anyone that ever said they miss when Iron Man's suits felt real, metal, and clunky instead of easy nanotech that perfectly fits over his body, Ironheart fills that void for you perfectly. The audio design department deserves a real raise, because for every heavy piece or component to Riri's suit moving in sync, I heard it. Aside from cool production details, I did truly feel that Riri Williams is a character important to the MCU right now. I think the MCU fanbase just needs to stop saying who asked for this and start trusting the process. People said it for Agatha, people said it for Thunderbolts, and people said it for Ironheart, and all of them turned out to be pretty solid. With great acting talent from everybody in the cast, especially Dominique Thorne and Lyric Ross, both playing Riri and Natalie respectively, overall solid VFX, and an interesting plot with friendly characters that connects it to the larger verse in the MCU, Ironheart gets an easy 8 out of 10 ranking. Deadpool and Wolverine feels like the Thor Ragnarok of this modern MCU verse. A movie that's full of comedy that for some it works really well, and for others it doesn't work. If I see that somebody had Deadpool and Wolverine low on their MCU list, unlike other good MCU projects, I would understand how it didn't appeal to them if they said the comedy just didn't work or got tiring after times. Because when your entire movie is rooted in making the audience laugh, if it doesn't make them laugh, they're not going to enjoy it as much. But to me, unlike Thor Ragnarok, Deadpool and Wolverine's humor works on multiple repeat viewings. Similar to movies like No Way Home, if your plot heavily relies on big cameos and the big reveal, they better be good characters past that reveal. And unlike movies we've seen in the past be rely on like cameos, Deadpool and Wolverine lands a solid reason to have them all present in the film. They don't take away from anything big, and they also contribute to the plot, exactly what a cameo should be. But obviously, this movie isn't about them. It's about Deadpool and Wolverine and their quest for purpose. Deadpool and Wolverine are so fun and so unashamed to be crude and immature because at his core, that's who Deadpool is. It's far from a perfect movie, but it serves its underlying goals, introducing Deadpool and Wolverine into the MCU canon, while also serving as a stepping off point for all of those original X-Men movies. And even beyond that, Marvel had some serious balls to greenlight this movie in the first place. The MCU up to 2023 never even said the word "f*** before, so to greenlight a movie where the main character says it 116 times throughout the total runtime is actually insane. But just like Marvel would always do in the past, they took a risk, and in my opinion, it paid off pretty well. Deadpool and Wolverine is just a fun time, full of memorable action, great characters, and outstanding performances from all actors involved. Deadpool and Wolverine stuck its neck out and gets rewarded with a solid 8 out of 10 score. Just shy of our podium for the best of Phase 5, we have the best overall live-action show that Marvel released on Disney+, Season 2 of Loki. This season already had some pretty big shoes to fill. I consider the original series one of the best things that Marvel Television put out before Season 2. So imagine my pure joy when for 6 uninterrupted weeks we received one of the best seasons in Marvel Television history. Loki Season 2 is at a really high regard for me because it does something unexpected. It gives Kang an ending. After everything that happened, I really never thought we were going to see an ending to this character, but Loki Season 2 honestly ties up a good 90% of Kang's leftover threads. And it makes sense that Loki did it because they were the ones that introduced him back in Season 1, so it's almost poetic for them to be the ones to end it. And speaking of endings, this season could have easily been the end of Loki's character. By the end of the show, they leave him in such a perfect place that came full circle around from the start of his arc, from villain to hero, that after it ended, I honestly wouldn't have been surprised if that was the last time we ever saw Loki. And as skeptical as I am for his return in Doomsday, that will never take away from how powerful of a scene Episode 6 of Season 2 gives us. Watching him sacrifice himself to an eternity of loneliness at the end of time with a smile on his face as he accepts this new job as the god of stories was the exact ending that Loki needed. I couldn't ask for a better character arc for a character that has been here since the beginning of the MCU. Because not many people realize it, but Loki and Tom Hiddleston have been around in the MCU for 14 years now, and if they messed up his ending, my faith in Marvel's long-term storytelling ability would falter. But in the end, they did it. They delivered Season 2 of Loki, and boy was it great. Like I briefly said earlier, I am skeptical of his return in Doomsday, but once you get crowned the god of stories, literally holding the multiverse together with his hands in the Multiverse Saga, I couldn't really think of a way for Doomsday to work without his presence. I sure hope the Russos don't find another brutal and painful way to kill Loki again. Loki Season 2 gets a 9 out of 10 ranking. Officially entering our podium, we have Thunderbolts. Unlike Agatha, I did not think about who wanted this movie, but I did think about why they were making this movie, and right now. Because when Thunderbolts was originally announced, it was the ending of Phase 5 going into 6. So that was a huge question on my mind going into this movie. Why did this originally end Phase 5? Why would they make a movie about the B-listers of the MCU? But after I saw it, it felt like everything Marvel used to bring to the table. The best compliment I think I can give this movie is it feels like the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. A random team of misfits and assholes that people don't really know about, who learn the value of surrounding themselves with better people around each other and learning to be better. It's one of my favorite tropes ever, and Thunderbolts is an entire movie dedicated to that. I walked out of this movie with a feeling I haven't felt in a while. The feeling of being excited to see where each member of this team shows up again in the future of the MCU. I'm excited to see every single character in this movie again in Doomsday. And I'll go out on a little bit of a limb here and say it. I think Yelena is a better written character than Natasha before her. Natasha was always treated as this B member of the Avengers team, and never really all that important until they locked in during Endgame, right before they killed her off. It's like they discovered the secret to make this character likable and then just killed her instead. But thankfully, they just apply all of those skills directly into Yelena. She gets so much more development and characterization that makes her just an enjoyable character to watch. Because the message of the movie with mental health requires good characters on screen in order for us to actually care about the message. And I love that they don't try and make the message something subtle. They put it right at the forefront of this movie. It's great because it just feels so real. All the characters feel like actual human beings going through all these different things. My biggest criticism of the original 6 Avengers and their team is that they felt more like co-workers and friends at times versus the family that they were supposed to be. But our new Avengers do not have that issue. They all feel connected like an actual family would. Speaking of the new Avengers, Marvel is genius for that marketing. Because let's be honest, if they marketed this movie as the new Avengers from the start, the most annoying person you know would throw an absolute temper tantrum about this online. But by them keeping it a secret until after you see this team's triumphs and how they've earned the names from their action by the end of the movie, I thought that was kind of genius. Thunderbolts for me easily breaks the top 10 of the entire MCU, because it feels like Marvel is going back to their roots. Taking characters that I don't think about too much and making them the forefront of the story will never get old, and I will always applaud Marvel for making me care about a character like John Walker. Thunderbolts receives an easy 9 out of 10 ranking. In the number 2 spot, we have X-Men 97. The direct continuation of the original 1997 cartoon that got a lot of people from that time into X-Men and Marvel. X-Men 97 is exactly what I want more companies to be doing with their IPs. Taking shows that ended prematurely for whatever the reason may be and reviving them and continuing them in the modern age on all these streaming services was a great idea on Disney's part. It's so awesome to see these characters again and pick up right back from where we left them decades ago. And having a lot of the original voice actors return? Hell yeah, Marvel! And just outside how cool it is to have a revival for the original cartoon, X-Men 97 is genuinely the best adaptation we've gotten of these characters since 2014's Days of Future Past. The characters actually act and speak how their comic counterpart would, something that was lacking from almost all the original Fox X-Men movies. The main person that applies to is Cyclops. Cyclops and Nightcrawler are two of my favorite X-Men, and for years during the Fox era, people would always talk about how lame Cyclops is, how he's just a boot kisser and a Boy Scout that's unlikable to watch because he can't do anything on his own. Nah, not my Cyclops. My Cyclops, who's present in this show, is a natural-born leader and an absolute badass that proves he is fit to lead this diverse group of characters. But outside of that, X-Men 97 also introduces the theme of the mutant race no longer being able to defend humanity's awful misdeeds early on in the show with the courtroom scene. And with Magneto's speech, it had enough fuel in the fire to keep that story going, but no. They gave us one of the most horrific and heartbreaking moments in recent years in the form of the Genosha Massacre. Showing our characters fight back against this genocide while all hope seems lost is exactly what the X-Men stand for, making this a perfect adaptation of these characters in my eyes. And because of that, X-Men 97 gets a 10 out of 10 ranking. And easily, the number 1 spot of Phase 5 of the MCU goes to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Guardians 3 sits ironically at the number 3 spot for the entire MCU, and I think it will hold on to its title for a very long time. I watched this movie opening day for my best friend's birthday, and we nearly sobbed throughout the entire movie. A movie, mind you, about talking raccoons. And I'll never be ashamed to admit that, because honestly, I think that's one of the highest compliments I can award to a movie. If I feel so connected to the characters that seeing them so happy and so safe at the end of the day makes me break down in tears in a public environment, dude, that's some good storytelling. The main line from the movie I want to highlight is Lila's, right before Rocket comes back to life.
This story has been yours all along. You just didn't know it.
That line alone recontextualized the entire Guardians trilogy for me. Because yeah, on paper and all the posters, Star-Lord is our main character. But now that we have a full completed trilogy with 2 Avengers movies and a spin-off in there too, we learn the most about Rocket Raccoon more than any other character inside this team. This movie literally spends half its runtime being Rocket's origins, making audiences care about a talking walrus for some time. And after seeing this movie, it's clear to me, Rocket Raccoon is the protagonist and the main character of our MCU Guardians. You'd also think that the movie spends so long on Rocket, they won't allow other characters to shine, but that's also just not true. Quill gets a lot of needed development, mainly in his path with Gamora. Throughout the movie, he learns to get over his immature and immediate thoughts about someone wearing the face of his old lover. Because she's not his old lover back from the dead. She's a reimagined version of her without the spark that connected these two. It is gorgeous and absolutely heartbreaking to watch. It's a perfect send-off to these characters that were 10 years in the making and the product from someone who truly understands emotion. Guardians 3 holds strong as the best of its trilogy, one of the best MCU titles to date, and easily the best project that Marvel made inside of Phase 5. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 received a 10 out of 10 ranking. And there you have it, folks, my complete ranking of Phase 5 of the MCU. If you were able to make it this far into the video, feel free to drop your ranking in the comment section down below or over on Letterboxd. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed your time watching today's videos, and I hope to see you all again. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.